God, that was an awesome story. Hello, Geeks and Ghouls. Yes, we're very far into the 31 short stories of Halloween. We're almost done. Halloween is at the gates, and we'll return to a book we saw early on, my favorite horror story. Today we'll go for Harlan Ellison's pick, and Harlan Ellison is not a well-known horror author. He's a science fiction author, even though he's Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is a pretty scary story. And actually, I decided to get to this story because I have not read it before. I have heard some awesome stuff about it, and also it's from a Japanese author, so it's always to add some more diversity. Because, let's be fair, most of the stories I've talked about are from US authors, or UK authors, or Australian authors. So we talk about Edogawa Ranpo and his story, The Human Chair. Believe me, when I heard the title of the story, I was pretty certain that it is about a human turned into a chair, a concept that we saw in other stories in this month. However, this story is far different and very disturbing. Edogawa Ranpo is a pseudonym of a Japanese author. It's the Japanese way of pronouncing Edgar Allan Poe, so it's probably Edogawa Po. And that's the most racist way to say it, alright? Yeah, sorry for my Japanese accent, but it's non-existent. It starts off with this woman. The stories are set before World War II, and I think the story was written before World War II, but was published in 1954, I believe. The author is a very well-known horror and mystery author in Japan. He had a lot of great stories, and this one's amazing. It really has these echoes of Edgar Allan Poe. The unlikable protagonist, the bitter irony, the not exactly surreal, the outlandish idea, and the situation in this one are definitely a treat. Yes, you've been here before, you know I'm going to spoil the entire story. The story begins with a woman who's married to an ambassador, and he leaves for work and she goes to her office to write a story because she's a famous author, and she receives a lot of mail, and one of the letters she received is a big manuscript, which she thinks that it's a wannabe author sending her his manuscript to read it and tell them her opinion. But it's more like a letter, and it's a story of a man who claims to be poor and of an ugly face, that became a maker of furniture, and over time he became a famed craftsman in his poverty and loneliness, and he was assigned to make a very lush armchair for a foreign hotel, and he does make the armchair. It's made of leather and exquisite, but at the last moment he realizes that it's so good. What it's like if I hollowed the armchair and I get inside it, and every night I can go out and steal stuff out of this expensive hotel. And so he does. He stays into the armchair every night. He goes out and steals stuff, but what really fascinates him is women sitting on the armchair with him inside, and how close he feels to them. Since he considers himself ugly, he never scored any woman, so just having women sit on him is a treat for him. It makes him feel happy, and he remains on the armchair. However, the hotel changes ownership, and the new owners are Japanese, and they decide that the armchair doesn't fit the profile of the hotel, so they sell it in an auction. And granted, the women who were sitting on our protagonist were foreigners, and he wants a real Japanese woman to sit on him. Yeah, no. And that's not the disturbing part. That's not the most disturbing part in the story. So it's sold to a diplomat, and it's used by his wife, who does intellectual tasks. So she sits on the armchair over time, and our protagonist, our ugly protagonist, falls in love with her because they spend so many hours together every day. And you guess that the armchair is the one the woman is sitting on every day. And so she freaks out. She really freaks out, and she runs out of the office, and then she receives a second letter that says, "Oh yeah, I sent you a manuscript, but it was completely imaginary. Don't freak out." And that's the entire story. And oh god, that was an awesome story. That was awesome because the idea of I was expecting for the woman to be reading this manuscript and then the guy to pop out of the chair. Just imagine it, you're sitting on a chair and there's a man inside, there's a foreign man inside it, and that's awesome. Yes, it's sick, it's Japanese, alright. You start to understand why Japanese horror is so freaky, because it was established by people like that. And yes, of course, there are the echoes of Edogawa Ranpo, the way that reality shifts to accommodate something completely different. That's an amazing story. I loved it. It was very unnerving. And yeah, the ending was, it was not a cop-out exactly. It was like, was it true or was it not? It plays with your head. You have to think about it, and that's what makes the story great, and you should read it. Thank you for watching. We're nearing towards the end, so if you have been watching all those videos and you still have not subscribed, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you tomorrow. Stay spooky.